I never thought a simple night shift would change my life. I thought it was just a job, a chance to make some easy money while the city slept. Little did I know that job would pull me into something dark, something I wasn't ready to see. It all started when I walked into that building for the first time. It was an old, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, empty. No lights, just the sound of my footsteps echoing down long, deserted hallways. "Just clean the place up, don't ask questions," my boss had said, handing me a set of keys. "And stay in the designated areas. There's history here. You won't want to know." At first I thought he was just trying to spook me. I mean, who wouldn't want an easy job, especially when the place was as dead as the neighborhood it was in? I came in at midnight. The building felt cold, too cold. The air smelled like rust and something worse, like mildew mixed with decay. I figured, no big deal, just do my job and go home. But there was something about this place that didn't sit right with me. Something about the silence. It wasn't just quiet. It was unnaturally quiet, like the building itself was holding its breath. As I started cleaning, I noticed something strange. The lights, they flickered. Not like the usual flickers you get in old places, but in a way that made the shadows on the walls seem to twist. Like they were alive. I shrugged it off. "It's just an old building," I told myself. "Just get the job done, and don't overthink it." Then I heard a sound. It was soft at first, a scraping, like something dragging across the floor. I stopped and looked around, but there was nothing. Just the faint hum of the lights overhead. Scrape, scrape. My heart started racing. The sound came closer. I turned around, but all I saw was darkness. I walked down the hallway to investigate. The scraping got louder, closer. It was coming from the back room, the one they told me never to enter. But curiosity got the better of me. I approached the door, my hand shaking as I reached for the handle. The moment I touched it, the door creaked open, and I saw something I wasn't meant to see. The walls inside that room were covered in symbols, scratched into the concrete. The floor was stained with something dark, and in the center of the room there was a chair. And that's when I heard it again, that scraping noise. I turned to see something in the corner. A figure hunched over. I couldn't see its face, but I could feel its eyes on me, staring, watching. The figure whispered, "You shouldn't have come." And that was the last thing I heard before the lights went out. I don't know how long I stood there in the dark. It felt like hours. But when the lights flickered back on, the figure was gone. Just gone. The room was empty, but the sound of the scraping remained. The second night I showed up for work, I nearly turned around and left before stepping through the door. My hands were still trembling from what happened the night before. But something, maybe pride, maybe stupidity, forced me forward. I had convinced myself it was just my imagination, that the figure I saw was some reflection or a tired hallucination from lack of sleep, a cleaner's mind playing tricks in the dark. Still, as I clocked in and stepped into the main corridor, I noticed every light overhead flickering slightly. Not violently, just a subtle, intermittent blink, enough to keep me on edge. I decided to take the floor plan Mr. Gray gave me seriously this time. I didn't want to stumble into another restricted wing. I followed the yellow-coded path towards Sector B. It was a wing full of empty labs and storage rooms. Quiet. Dusty. It smelled like old antiseptic and plastic. Halfway through mopping the second hallway, I heard something scrape across the floor behind me. I stopped. The hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up. I turned slowly. Nothing. Just the mop bucket. I took a deep breath, laughed under my breath, and turned back to work. But then it scraped again. Louder, closer. I spun around. This time the bucket had moved. Slightly. Maybe a foot or two. My mop was laying sideways now. No draft could have done that. I left everything as it was and walked toward the nearest security camera I could find. I waved directly into it. Nothing happened. I stood there for a full minute. Still nothing. No voice on the intercom. No response from Mr. Gray. Was anyone even watching? Then I noticed it. One of the cameras was pointing the wrong direction. Toward the wall. Useless. The silence was worse than any noise I could have heard. I returned to my cart. I told myself to just finish the job, get through the shift, get paid. As I pushed my supplies into the next room, the lights overhead popped, all at once, and went black. Total darkness. I stood frozen, breathing hard, trying not to panic. Then, a soft hum. Emergency backup lights, dim red bulbs flickered on along the baseboards, casting everything in a low crimson glow. I didn't want to move, but something was in that hallway. I knew it. I could feel it. And then, down the far end, I saw her. A woman in a white gown, hair down, standing completely still, not breathing, not blinking, just watching me. I whispered, "Hello?" She didn't move. I took a step forward. My foot echoed. So did hers. But she hadn't moved. Another step. Another echo. From her side. This wasn't a reflection. This wasn't a hallucination. This was real. She lifted one hand slowly and pointed, right behind me. I turned, heart slamming, and saw a door slightly open. Behind it, darkness. A metal tag dangled from the doorframe. I read it through the red light. Test room 3A, unauthorized entry prohibited. But it was open. The woman was gone. I don't remember deciding to go in, but I did. The air was cold, not just chilly, hospital basement cold. My breath was visible. The room was lined with thick glass panels, like an observation chamber, and inside it, a single chair, straps, blood, scratches on the wall. And then a sound. Behind me, the door shutting. Locked. I wasn't alone anymore. The silence that followed was suffocating. That click behind me, the metallic certainty of a locked door, wasn't just a sound. It was a sentence. I wasn't leaving this place. Not tonight. I turned back to the hallway I had just entered. The flickering lights overhead gave it an almost sickly glow, and each step I took echoed too loudly in the stillness. I knew something was down here, watching, waiting. I continued forward, trying to keep my breathing steady. I passed more doors, each with strange warning signs. Level 3, biohazard, authorized personnel only, sensory isolation unit. Some had viewing slits, others had deep scratches gouged into the metal, like something inside had tried to claw its way out. I stopped in front of a heavy steel door marked Room 7, Cognitive Anomaly Containment. Unlike the others, this one wasn't just locked. It was reinforced with a thick bar, multiple padlocks, and a keypad requiring a code. But what chilled me was the handprint smeared in dried blood across the panel. Below it, etched in with a nail or knife, were the words, "Don't listen to her." I backed away slowly. Then I heard it. A voice, soft, female, whispering from the other side of the door. "Help me, please. They locked me in. I didn't do anything wrong." It sounded so real, so human, like someone terrified, desperate. But those words, they didn't match the vibe of the facility. Something felt off. I stepped closer. "Who are you?" I asked. There was silence. Then, "You don't remember me. You were here before. You promised you'd help." A coldness swept over me. I had never been here before. At least, I didn't think I had. "You're lying," I said. The voice laughed, low and hollow. "You forgot everything, just like the others. But you'll remember soon. You all do." I turned and ran, down the corridor, past the doors, back toward the only way I came. But the hallway had changed. It stretched farther, impossibly long, with more doors now, dozens of them. And then they started to open, one by one, first a creak, then a groan. Then silence again. I didn't stop. I couldn't. But from the corners of my vision, I saw shadows crawling out, some walking, some dragging themselves, some floating just above the floor. All of them wrong. I found a stairwell and bolted down. Basement level, another hallway. This one was wet, the floor slick, the walls pulsing slightly like living tissue. I wasn't in a government facility anymore. Not really. This was something older, deeper, hidden under layers of concrete and denial. In the center of the hallway was a man in a janitor's uniform. Like mine, except his face was blank. Smooth, no eyes, no mouth. He raised a finger and pointed behind me. I turned and saw myself, bleeding, screaming, pleading not to go through that last door. I blinked and it was gone. All of it. I stood in the main entrance again, the front lobby, Clean, empty, daylight through the glass. Had it all been a dream? I stumbled outside, breathless, and saw a black SUV parked near the curb. A man in a suit stepped out, holding a clipboard. "Mr. Collins, you're early for your shift. We weren't expecting you until tonight." My mouth went dry. "What? No, I was just inside. For hours, I saw—" He smiled politely. "Impossible. The facility's been locked down since last week. No one's gone in." I turned. The building was sealed. Boards over the windows, no lights, like it had been abandoned for years. I backed away. The SUV drove off. I got in my car, hands shaking. I never went back. But at night, I still hear the voice from room 7. "You'll remember soon." And I'm terrified that one night I will.